Welcome to another edition of Fireside Financials. I'm so excited, everyone, because we finally have the jacket. It only took 8 weeks to get here, but we have it. And God, it's just literally making my day right now. Technically, I guess I can't call this Fireside Financials because there's actually no live fire or fake fireplace as there has been in the past. But I do have a real fireplace, just no actual fire because I can't get the pilot light lit. But you know what? Next time there'll be a real fire and a real fireplace for you, so please stay tuned. Today, what we're talking about is how much money do you need in your emergency fund? And if you've thought about this before, or if you've looked this up online, you've probably seen the numbers of 3 to 6 months thrown around. Now, with any rule of thumb, it kind of depends on your own particular situation. It's a good starting point, but mileage may vary based on your own situation. And just to address a point that comes up a lot, 3 to 6 months of savings is not an insignificant amount. So it seems pretty daunting. And so what I recommend is to start small. Start with $1,000 or $2,000 in savings, and then work your way up to $3,000, eventually 1 month savings, 2 month savings, and go that way to reduce feeling overwhelmed and like it's almost too big of a mountain to climb. So why do you need an emergency fund? I think that's an important place to start. And the reason why is life happens. It will oftentimes leave us, or maybe sometimes leave us up the creek without a paddle. And it's really important to have money set aside so that when the inevitable happens, you're able to weather that in a way where you aren't forced to react out of need and not having enough money to be able to do what you actually want to do. So for example, if you are fired from your job and you don't have an emergency fund available, you may be forced to take the first job opportunity that comes up because you have to be able to pay your bills. Yet that job could be a really bad fit for you culturally, not paying you enough money or what you're worth, and it could be a really bad fit. So it's important to be able to have this money here for when that situation happens, or if you're in a really bad relationship and you need to get out, right? It's to be able to have that money there as an insurance policy almost, so that you don't have to take a shitty situation when life hands you one. So, gonna look at my notes here. How do you actually calculate your emergency fund? So there are a couple different ways, but really the main way to calculate it is based on what your current expenses are right now. Now, another way to calculate it is what do you think your expenses will be if you were to, for example, lose your job or some really bad situation happened. You likely could cut some of the expenses that you have today. I think the first one is more realistic, and in my experience, people can overestimate how much they're able to cut in the future. So maybe a happy medium if you want to kind of find an in-between, but the most conservative place to start is with what your spending is right now. So let's say your spending is $5,000 a month right now. If you wanted a 3-month emergency fund, you would need $15,000 saved to cover that. 6 months is 30 grand. Again, this adds up quick, so don't get overwhelmed. An important thing when working towards specific goals is to break them up into manageable chunks. So if you're looking for 3 months at 15,000, start with 1,000, then 2,000, then 3,000, etc. So how much do you actually need? Is it 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? It really depends. So for example, do you have a partner or spouse whose income you would be able to rely on if you lost your job? Or if some other situation happened to you where you weren't able to earn as much income, right? Then that would increase the amount of runway that you have available because you would be able to depend on their income. Do you have any income coming in from a side hustle? Or if you were to lose your full-time job, right, that you would have some other income to be able to rely on. Let's see. If you're planning any major changes in your life, right? So if you're planning on quitting your job at some point and starting your own business, or looking to invest time in starting a business and reduce your hours at your current job, you'll definitely want a larger runway in order to, because when there's more uncertainty, there's more risk, and you want to be able to cover for that risk. Another one would be if you want to invest in starting your own business, it's not just that you have enough money up front to be able to take the leap. It's, do you have enough money saved to invest in the business in the way that you want to be able to have it grow right, as fast as you would like it to. So I know that's not a one-size-fits-all answer. It is much more of a depends, but based on your own particular situation, it's really important to think that through. And just what I would say is people generally think that a W-2 employer, right, like being employed by a company is the most stable, but you can lose your job at their discretion and all your income goes away. Whereas with what I do, right, my income is variable and changes with the amount of clients that I have, but the odds that every single client at once would say, hell no, I don't want to work with you anymore, is pretty small. So just keep that in mind and evaluate honestly the risk of you losing your job depending on what kind of job that you have. And in terms of saving operations, order of operations and what to save for, because there are different savings goals you may have. Your emergency fund, paying off credit card debt, saving towards retirement, saving up for a trip that's coming up in a couple months. And what I would say is it is up to you. You can put a different percentage towards those different goals, like half of the money you have to save towards emergency fund and the other half towards credit card debt. Now, what I would say is if you have less than 3 months in your emergency fund, I would prioritize that. Not necessarily 100% to that and 0 to anything else, but put an outsized portion towards that because, again, if and when life throws you a curveball, all of the progress that you would have made in other areas will likely be set back because you don't have that buffer to be able to absorb the shock that comes your way. So, as always, if you have any questions about how much to have in your emergency fund, let me know in the comments. I always appreciate hearing from you. And if you have any suggestions for future fireplace financial topics, that was a weird wink, for the future, just let me know as well. Have a great one, and I'll see you next time.